Hey, so how's it, guys? Welcome back to FANatics. I'm your rejigged host as Sholin returns back to university. So I'll be leading us, but not into temptation, as we wade through the waters of South African politics and ideology. Guys, Tioko and Sholin, thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are kicking off with a story that developed over the weekend. And it's just so ridiculous, we just couldn't not talk about it. And this comes from our dear Presidente, comrades Cyril Ramaphosa, back down from his previous comments at. Let me actually, Tiago, let me give it to you. Do you want to give us some context as to what actually happened here? So he's back down from comments. Just give us the story here.
Well, I think the story is quite simple. The ANC has been in governance for some time now. They have failed to maintain Eskom and to maintain public electricity infrastructure that belongs to Eskom. And now we have gotten to a point whereby they are failing to supply us with electricity. It's time to now find solutions to the crisis. The only solution that they are able to come up with is to the proposal that was made by Ramaphosa last week as to how we can fix the electricity crisis in South Africa is that we rebuild an Eskom 201. That's a proposal that he made last week, and that's the exact program that he went against. That's it. I'm sorry, I have a bit of flu today, so my thoughts are all over. Please bear with me.
No, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So essentially, he made the initial comments was that at the SACP conference last week, that we needed a new Eskom to challenge Eskom. And I mean, we have to. What I want to focus on here is the crowd that he was talking to. So I think this is and this is the angle I want to take is to think about how he speaks to the audience that he wants to please. So at the SACP conference, he's talking to a bunch of communists who love state power. They love state intervention. And, talking to the crowd and resonates. So is Cyril a bit of a people pleaser? Because he also said, he endorsed this idea that was put forward by Gwede Mantashe, the Minister of Mineral Resources. Is he just playing lip service to whoever he's speaking in front of?
Yeah, no, I think you are absolutely correct on this one, Alex. And it's an observation I had not yet made. My mind is quite slow this morning again. But I think that's how he is generally, right? But that's just generally how the ANC is, because they don't have a particular ideology that they subscribe to as an organization. I forgot what they refer to themselves as, but I think they call themselves an umbrella organization or something of that nature. So they have a tendency of going to different sections of society and saying different things to different people at different times. They say to you what they know you want to hear. So when it's time to engage with business, they say to businesses that, hey, we are going to remove some of the standing blockades that don't make it possible for businesses to excel very well. We are going to privatize this particular sector and whatnot and that. When they speak to the SACP, as you have correctly identified in this situation, they speak to the SACP knowing that it's about government power, and so they tell it a story that it wants to hear, that we're going to give more power to the government. But that's just the nature of the kind of politics that the ANC pushes. But we also see that in your PAC politics, EFF politics, and other organizations such as those ones who really are aligned to the ANC. It's really bad, I think, the situation, Joe.
No, absolutely. Sholin, what are your thoughts about it? And I think what's important here, and I think there's something that we need to try and really get through is, Tioko says that, it doesn't really matter the ideology that they're speaking to or about. But, they do have at their core a founding document called the National Democratic Revolution, this obviously being the ANC. They've been in a tripartite alliance with the SACP. The SACP is talking about, I think every year they come up with a statement saying, "Oh, we're going to break away. We're going to run by ourselves." And I don't know if we're going to ever see that come true. But what do you think about a second Eskom to challenge Eskom? Giving the state will just do everything.
Yeah, that is a terrible idea, and we've seen that over and over again. I must say that the idea of a second Eskom, coming from the ANC, I don't think it's as ludicrous as it sounds, because it will just be another money pit for them to steal millions from, and so they need another bag in which they get rid of the money, essentially, because we know that they will loot that state-owned entity once again, just like they have Eskom. And just on the point of essentially, Ramaphosa does not have a backbone. That is no surprise at this point, because he is literally the master politician. I think he's literally the president, which makes him the master politician, because he knows exactly what to say and in front of who he needs to say it. When he speaks, as you said, Alex, in front of a communist organization like the Communist Party, then he's all about state-owned control and and centralizing power. But when he speaks in front of the countries like the United States, and in front of President Biden and international presidents like Boris Johnson and all of these European countries, then he's the one who champions, we need to transition away from Eskom and to green energy. So bring us all of your millions, first world countries, invest in our country, let us use solar power and all of these very, very nice things. Then he's the first one to champion those things, because that's where the money lies. But when he comes back home and he sees that his comrades are not on board with it and they want coal power, they want more mining rights, whatever the case may be, then he's definitely on board with that. But eventually we'll see that it catches up with him, because as we know that when you try to stand for everything, you will eventually end up standing for absolutely nothing. And that's exactly what we see with Ramaphosa right now.
Yeah, I think it's also crazy, because it's for me, the thing that really stuck out is really how you just play the tune to your crowd. And I don't think there's not a single South African who appreciates load shedding or likes the idea of every year there's price hikes for electricity. So it wouldn't resonate with any of the public, surely.
Yeah, Alex, no, you're absolutely right there. That's exactly what Ramaphosa and his other ministers like Gwede Mantashe do. They are the biggest complainers of Eskom or load shedding, as if though they are not the ones in charge of giving a direction. So it makes no sense to me at all.
No, absolutely. And I think this is kind of how we would sum up the decisions that these people are making.
Just a bunch of unbearable, useless individuals.
Tiago, your
I
final thoughts.
I think it's quite correct, but I don't think we should undermine Ramaphosa at all. I think there are politics that he stands for. If anything, I think he's more of a communist than Mbeki and Zuma were, or maybe at least in practice, he's been pushing for communism more than anyone else has been. We saw with him coming in, pushing for minimum wage. We saw that coming into place. It's something that your Mbekis, your Zumas had been making noise about for a very long time, but we had never really seen it in parliament being pushed at that level. We also saw with the NHI, there is now really progress around that whole thing. They had been preaching it for years, but no one actually pushed for it to be implemented. Now, we also saw the land question getting into parliament on a serious note last year. And all these things are happening under his leadership. He reminds me of Mugabe in a way, because he's so soft-spoken, but in action, when you look at the actual political moves or actual policy moves he's making in governance, much as is playing this politics outside government, there is something that he's playing towards. And it's quite clearly exactly what you mentioned, Alex. The NDR is quite clearly at the practical level what we are moving towards. But at the political level, he acts all confused and all of that. So I think he's a very dangerous human being, or a dangerous politician, at least, that we must be quite careful of if we are to protect South Africa, sure.
Yeah, Diego made a really good point there, Alex, where you're basically saying that unlike his predecessors, we actually see that Ramaphosa is a is actually low-key a communist. Because I think under Mbeki and Nelson Mandela, it was very more like a kind of like a liberal approach to things like economics and so forth. And then we see Zuma being more of like a traditionalist. He was very conservative, I think. And now we're actually seeing Ramaphosa actually going to the far left side of things, because of all of the things that he's actually championing and pushing through. So yeah, while he has the image of being a reformist, not really what he's reforming.
So I think we've touched on a lot of good things this morning, and I think what I want to do actually is I wasn't planning, but a video was shared in a group on the weekend, and I want to play it for you guys, and then we can discuss it because I think it ties into a lot of what we've been speaking about. And this clip actually comes from I think it's the most recent Gauteng regional conference where they elected Panyaza Lesufi to be the provincial leader. And I think that this clip actually does a lot, from the ANC itself, that it explains, I think, what we're describing. But let's hear it from the horse's mouth as such.
Budget of the Gauteng provincial government amounts to 149 billion rand. Things that we know as we speak now, that the 44.9 billion in Tshwane is not in our hands, that the 73 billion in Johannesburg is not in our hands, that the 51 billion in Ekurhuleni is not in our hands. I want to argue we are not at the crossroads. When you are at the crossroads, you have an option. You have an option of taking the right path, or you have an option of taking the wrong path. We are not at the crossroads. We have already chosen the wrong path. ANC had at its disposal access to 350 billion rands per annum. We constitute 33% of the GDP of this country. So 1 in 3 size of the economy of this country resides in Gauteng. So we have a choice. We have a choice to continue carrying ourselves in the manner that we have carried ourselves. Then the fate of Tshwane, the fate of Johannesburg, the fate of Ekurhuleni, the fate of Mogale going to befall the Gauteng provincial government, and we will not have the levers to exploit the state for the advancement of the national democratic revolution. And ultimately, who's the casualty? The majority of our people. Budget.
Hi.
No, that's hilarious.
Could not have said it better ourselves. We have 350 billion rand that we cannot exploit.
These guys really believe that the public's money is their money. I think there's something wrong with them at a mental level. I don't think it's just politics anymore and not understanding. I think fundamentally there's something wrong with them. They are really convinced that the public purse belongs to them. How do you say that we had so much money as an organization? I mean, isn't it that you are elected as a political party to enter into the government? Not that the government enters into the political party and the money becomes the party's money. It doesn't make logical sense. But unfortunately, it is what the ANC has become over the years. And I'm quite glad. In Sepedi, we have what we call, in African traditions, actually, and it's a bit funny. We call it when someone is a witch and there's a revealing at some point, they are revealed under the sun. I think it's exactly what's happening here. These are really devils, and they are being revealed under the sun. It's a beautiful day in South Africa. I hope South Africans come 2024 and upcoming years, they do head and listen to what these guys are really saying and do vote for someone who will prioritize them and understand that the public's money belongs to the public, that it should serve the public and not any political party.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with Diego. I think the best thing that, especially in Gauteng, that where we see that when there's an alternative political parties who are now in coalition in the government, taking over, the moment they close the taps on the tenders and the contracts that go to ANC cadres, you immediately see the organization start throwing tantrums like this. And it's the same thing that happened in the Western Cape as well when the ANC lost power. Once the money taps dry up, the party completely collapses on itself because it's the money that keeps them loyal to one another. And one of the best things that the alternative political parties or citizens can do is, focus on getting things right, and the ANC will implode on itself. But it's just solely based on the fact that there's no more money for them. And yeah, that's the best thing we can do for ourselves, is to focus on making sure this country runs for us, and let them destroy themselves in the corner over there.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing happening, and I think with the two kind of stories reveal here, is that they're getting desperate, and they're not being able to keep their cards close enough to the chest. And yeah, when the rubber hits the road, unfortunately, the magician starts revealing their tricks, just throwing in all the metaphors that I can. But as we said,
just a bunch of unbearable, useless individuals.
Guys, before we wrap up, I actually just want to share with you guys the latest article that Tioko actually penned for us, and then we'll jump into burning questions with Mbali. And we're just going to take a bit of a tangent here and just dive into a little bit of ideological stuff. And I think, because Tioko, you wrote this piece about, just very, very nice short piece about 10 quotes from former economist Friedrich Hayek. Do you want to just give us a bit of background before we jump into burning questions, why you chose Friedrich Hayek, and maybe for people who don't know who he is, just a bit of background about him?
Yeah, no, I had been thinking about him for a while and trying to figure out what liberty means for me as Tiago, at least. But having reflected on people's work, people such as Friedrich Hayek himself, and a brilliant economist, a classical liberal economist, who really has always made logical conclusions in his work, right? And so I thought, what does liberty mean essentially when I reflect on his work? And for me, I found that liberty essentially means that allowing the individual to be themselves at the fullest capacity possible. So be yourself as much as possible, so long as you don't step on the next person's foot. And I think that he is one of those people who, in a way, is able to just give a simple definition of what liberty actually entails. It's not complicated at all. You can go to an ordinary person at a taxi rank, you can go to a bus station, explain to them that classical liberalism, or liberty at least, is really the idea that every individual should just be allowed to be themselves, so long as they are not stepping on the next person's toes. I think, for me, that's a thought that just came up, and I thought, let me look at his quotes, because I know that he has a way of simplifying the whole idea, as opposed to many academics who complicate the whole idea and end up making it difficult for us to break it down to the people on the ground. And so I think it's part of why the liberal movement and the libertarian movements have been so slow in growing in South Africa and in the African context. There hasn't really been people willing to break it down like that, but he has done it. And if we bring it down here, I think it should assist our cause in us trying to get this mentality that individuals rise up, man. You have the power, you have the hands, you have the feet, you have the brain, you have everything. If you have an idea, wake up, do that thing. Don't wait for anyone to come and save you. Only we can save ourselves, really, at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think, and guys, you can find this article on our website at www.f-an.net or freedomadvocacy.net, as well as on our social media platforms at Badge of Liberty, particularly Facebook and Twitter is where you'll find a lot of our written work. We've also got articles about explaining what the NDR is, which we've spoken about today. There's an article outlining what a classical liberal is as well. And of course, you can find Tioko's piece there. And I think before to end off the segment of the show, I'm going to read the second quote that Tioko cites in his article, which I thought was really cool, which says, "All political theories assume that most individuals are very ignorant. Those who plead liberty differ in that they include among the ignorant themselves as well as the wisest. I think that is absolutely brilliant. Guys, on that note, let's jump into burning questions with Mbali.
Yo, what's up? Hi guys, welcome to Burning Questions. Hi Alex, hi Sholin, hi Diego.
I'm fine.
Hey guys, today we are talking about. So guys, today our code card comes from Moeletsi Mbeki, and he speaks about. Wait, can you guys see it on your screens?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. His code card reads: South Africa is a great country. We have a very poor government, and many people mistake the government for the people of South Africa. The government being a bunch of useless individuals, as Alex has been saying. So, guys, let's